The stat experience levelling system that existed in the first two generations is gone. Instead, the effort value system of Pokemon stat building is used, which is slightly more complicated but much more customizable in practice, if slightly awkward to make the most out of due to random battles not always producing the correct Pokemon and it being very rare Pokemon that boost values fastest. Sometimes the Pokemon that boost the stats best don't even appear in the wild. Basically, if you want to build up a Pokemon's speed, you fight a fast opponent, and so on. Pokerus increases effort values gained, then it seems to be more common than it was. Also, shiny Pokemon no longer have maxed out stat caps. Also new to the remakes is the Pokethlon, a sort of sporting event for your Pokemon to partake in that amounts to a series of stylus-based minigames where you can earn various medals. However, these, unlike the ribbons that you're used to, do not attach themselves to your Pokemon forever like you probably want them to. You'll need to sacrifice apricorns if you want to raise your monster's stat for these games. In Johto, the regional tree named Professor is a significantly less imposing man than Oak, named Elm. He enrolls your character into running an errand to investigate an egg held by the originally named Mr. Pokemon. Pokemon breeding, creepily, happens to be the Elm's strongest subject. In order to complete this job, however, you'll need more protection than is available at your local chemist. On offer this time around are Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile, the only set of starters that remain pure singular types throughout all their evolutions from any generation, unless Black and White changes that when they come out. While conversing with Mr. Pokemon, however, you're introduced to series veteran Professor Oak, who, after observing your bond with your new fighter, hands you a Pokédex, with orders that you fill it. Like all Pokemon games, the story is cookie-cutter, but in a step that is rare for the franchise, it provides some actual between-game continuity. It's really the only generation to continue its story on from a previous one, in this case the adventures of Team Rocket. After Red decimated Team Rocket back in Kanto 2 years ago, the Syndicate's been struggling to return to their former glory. Shifting the operation to Johto, they slowly begin to create plots of world domination again, including, rather oddly, cutting off Slowpoke tails. Though they will go on to establish themselves as a formidable fighting force when they hijack the radio station in order to attempt to contact the missing Giovanni, they still let children stop their plans by having their pets beaten, which is an obvious organisational flaw. With your new hero, or heroine, you seek to become the regional champion by raising a team of killer animals. In order to qualify, however, you have to obtain all 8 of the region's gym badges. These are basically boss encounters. They tend to focus on a single elemental type. Sometimes you'll have to do something else, either inside or outside the gym, in order to obtain the badge, like collecting medicine for a sick electric sheep, to taking dragon users challenges, ironically, even if you lack a dragon type. If I was to analyse a stayed narrative, I'd be here all day. Johto doesn't forget entirely about Kanto, though. How could it? They're joined at the proverbial hip and literal mountains, after all. Gold and Silver are the only games that allow you to retread old ground after completing the main game. Once you've conquered the Pokemon League, one is able to travel to Kanto and experience the differences the 2 years can do to places. Mostly this is to allow the player to obtain some Kanto-only creatures, but also means recollecting the Kanto gym badges. There were several cut areas from the Kanto side of the game in the original release of Gold and Silver due to the size of the cartridge. Here, however, Viridian Forest, Seafoam Islands and Cerulean Caves have all been reinstated to allow you to capture the creatures that reside inside, including Mewtwo.
I am the strongest Pokémon in the world. Stronger even than you.
Ultimately, you travel deep into Mount Silver, Pokemon's Mount Fuji, to challenge yourself from the first generation. Red the trainer from the first games has seemingly lost or hung up his championship status and taken up life as a hermit on the edge of civilization. Here he trains his Pikachu in peace, until that is, some punk in orange or a girl in Mario's clothes decide that they're going to mess with him. Red retains his silence and draws his Pokemon. After defeating his Pikachu and ragtag selection of random Espeon plus Kanto defaults, he will concede to you. Good job. You just killed yourself. Multiplayer, just like in those playgrounds, is still the core of the Pokemon series. Now, with these consoles you don't even need link cables anymore. You can just enter a Wi-Fi union room and anyone who's doing the same in your immediate area can come and say hi, have a 3-on-3 battle or trade their Machoke for a Rayquaza. It gets better when you get into online battling because you can face anyone in the world with this. However, it incorporates a very awkward friend code system, so you can't engage with random people and need to set up battles in advance through other means like forums or something, taking away from the experience. There's also the GTS, which is where you can offer a Pokemon of your own for another. It's full of people offering Pidgeys for obscure event-only Pokemon like Mew or Celebi, so meh. Whether it's your favourite generation or not, it certainly ranks highly on any Pokémon fans list. These remakes are definitely worth playing if you're a new fan, or even an old one. Even if the last Pokémon game you played was literally Gold and Silver, you should re-immerse yourselves with these ones. Things have changed for the positive. I heartily recommend this game with about 80% of my soul. There are loads of special extras that you can sink your teeth into, and the games will last you a good while. By the way, did I mention you should play this? Oh, and to all you people who pointed out that I use Grecian gods as Pokemon names, well, yeah, that's something I've always done, and you're awesome for noticing.